Have you ever wondered when we last used typewriters, dial-up internet, or even the Concorde? Today we're uncovering the final moments of legendary inventions, traditions, and technologies that once ruled our world. Part 1. Technology and Communication. In 2006, Western Union sent its final telegram, officially ending the 150-year-old communication method that once connected the world before telephones, emails, and instant messaging took over. By the early 2000s, dial-up internet was replaced by broadband, making it the last era when dial-up connections were the standard for home internet. In 1983, the last manual telephone switchboard in the US was shut down, completing the country's transition to fully automated telephone systems after more than a century of switchboard operators. The last typewriter used in the White House was phased out in the 1990s as computers and digital devices took over presidential communication. In 2011, India's Godrej and Boyce closed the world's last typewriter factory, marking the end of an office staple that had been used for over a century. In the 2000s, landline telephones were no longer a requirement for home communication, with cell phones becoming the preferred method of contact. In 2022, New York City removed its final public payphone, marking the end of an era where street payphones were essential before mobile phones became the primary means of communication. In the early 2000s, newspapers were the primary news source, before online news platforms overtook print media as the dominant way to consume news. Part 2. Transportation and Travel. The Concorde, the world's fastest commercial passenger jet, made its last flight in 2003, ending an era of supersonic travel due to safety concerns and rising operational costs. The last commercial steam locomotives were phased out in China in 1988, marking the end of steam-powered transport, which had been the backbone of industry and travel for over a century. By 2000, most major airlines banned in-flight smoking, making it the final year passengers could smoke during flights on U.S. commercial airlines. Antarctica was the last continent discovered in the 1820s, remaining untouched for centuries before explorers confirmed its existence. The last known survivor of the Titanic, Melvina Dean, passed away in 2009, closing the chapter on living memories of the historic 1912 disaster. Part 3. Entertainment and Media. The last major Hollywood film, named A History of Violence, released on VHS in 2006, ending the home video format that had dominated movie rentals and collections for decades. Sony stopped producing its cassette Walkman in 2010, officially ending the device that revolutionized personal music listening and paved the way for CDs, MP3 players, and streaming services. The Artist, released in 2011, was the last black-and-white film to win an Oscar, a rare feat in modern cinema where color and CGI effects dominate the industry. By the 2010s, digital cameras had fully replaced film as the standard in Hollywood, ending an era of classic filmmaking techniques that had defined cinema for over a century. Sunrise, A Song of Two Humans, released in 1927, was the last silent film to be nominated for the Academy Award for Best Picture, signaling the decline of silent cinema in favor of sound films. The 1953 Academy Awards were the last to be broadcast solely on radio, as television broadcasts gained in popularity, leading to the Oscars' first televised ceremony. The Silence of the Lambs, released in 1991, was the last Best Picture winner to not receive an acting nomination, showcasing how its story and direction overpowered individual performances. Part 4. Space and Aviation. Apollo 17 in 1972 was the last mission where humans set foot on the moon, and to this day, no one has returned, though NASA aims to change that with upcoming Artemis missions. NASA retired the Space Shuttle program in 2011, after Atlantis had its final flight, ending 3 decades of space travel that launched satellites, built the ISS, and inspired generations. The final manual docking of a spacecraft occurred in 1999 when Space Shuttle Endeavour manually docked with the International Space Station during the STS-88 mission, marking the end of manual rendezvous in favor of automated systems. In 2011, NASA used the last external fuel tank for the Space Shuttle program, a crucial component that had helped launch countless astronauts into space for over 30 years. By the late 1990s, astronauts stopped using paper star charts for navigation as digital guidance systems, computers, and GPS technology took over, making space travel more precise and efficient. Before we continue, if you love learning about historic lasts, you'll love our video on 50 first-time achievements in history, from the first moon landing to the first known human civilization. Check it out by clicking the info card on your screen, or follow the link in the description. Part 5. Economics and Currency. In 2019, the European Union ceased issuing the €500 banknote, citing its frequent use in money laundering and illicit transactions. Though no longer produced, existing notes remain legal tender, allowing circulation while discouraging large-scale, cash-based criminal activities. The U.S. stopped using gold in its currency in 1933, shifting to paper-backed money to stabilize the economy during the Great Depression. Canada eliminated the penny in 2012, citing production costs that exceeded its actual value, leading to more countries considering similar moves. By the 2000s, major cities stopped accepting only cash, shifting to digital payments and contactless transactions for convenience and security. The early 1980s marked the last time a U.S. movie ticket cost just $1 before inflation and premium formats like IMAX skyrocketed prices. In 1963, zip codes became mandatory for U.S. mail, marking the last time a letter could be sent without one. Paper passbooks for bank accounts disappeared in the 2000s as online banking and mobile apps became the new norm. Part 6. Politics, Government, and War. In 2019, Indonesia announced it would move its capital from Jakarta to Nusantara, marking the last major capital relocation due to concerns over overcrowding, pollution, and sinking land. The U.S. military draft officially ended in 1973 after the Vietnam War, marking the last time young men were conscripted into service before transitioning to an all-volunteer force. Saudi Arabia became the last country to grant women the right to vote in 2015, when women were allowed to participate in municipal elections for the first time. Kosovo became the newest independent country in Europe in 2008, marking the last time a European nation officially declared independence following years of conflict in the Balkans. The U.S. military officially retired carrier pigeons from service in 1957, marking the end of their use in wartime communication, a practice that had been used since World War I. The USS Missouri fired the last battleship shells in combat during the Gulf War in 1991, marking the end of an era where massive warships dominated naval battles. The last cavalry charge in battle took place in 1939 when Polish forces on horseback attacked German tanks during World War II, highlighting how modern warfare had evolved. The U.S. made its last official declaration of war in 1942 against Hungary, Bulgaria, and Romania, marking the end of formal war declarations in favor of military authorizations. The British Army last used swords in battle at the 1898 Battle of Omdurman, an event that symbolized the transition from traditional weapons to modern firearms. South Sudan became the world's newest country in 2011, following a long struggle for independence from Sudan. In 2018, a golden retriever named Duke was the last dog to serve as mayor of a U.S. town, showing how quirky small-town traditions can be. Part 7. Fashion, Lifestyle, and Safety. Corsets faded from fashion in the 1910s after World War I. Marking the last decade, they were considered everyday wear for women in Western society. In 2008, British judges no longer had to wear wigs regularly, with the change made for practical purposes, though still required for some ceremonial events. Nancy Reagan, serving as First Lady during the 1980s, was the last to hold this role without a college degree, symbolizing a shift in expectations. Before 1968, cars were sold without seat belts, but new U.S. safety regulations mandated their inclusion in all vehicles sold starting that year. The last amateur golfer to win a major championship was Johnny Goodman in 1933, as the sport increasingly became dominated by professional players. Craig McTavish was the last NHL player to compete without a helmet in 1997, as safety rules made helmets mandatory for all new players entering the league. The last eruption of Mount Vesuvius occurred in 1944, continuing a pattern of volcanic activity in Italy that dates back centuries. Got a last time ever event we didn't include? Drop it in the comments below. Throw us a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you never miss a new video. See you next time.